All right. Welcome to the backup plan. I'm Sam. This is my first video on the channel. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the Odyssey. This is a film by Christopher Nolan. For those who know me, he's my favorite director, hands down. No one comes close. What can I say? I've already seen the film 3 times. Seen it in 3 different formats. One was just a standard digital projection. Second was an IMAX, not an IMAX 70, just an IMAX. That's the best we have in our area. And third was 70 millimeter, which is a pretty rare occurrence at the theater I went to. They only really do it, from what I understand, for big tentpole releases like this. So what does that tell you? I've seen the film 3 times. I must adore it, right? Absolutely. I'm not going to bury the lead. I think this film is phenomenal. I think it's borderline a masterpiece. But in saying that, I do think I need to clarify some things. For one, I've never actually finished reading the Odyssey, so I can't speak to how perfect of an adaptation it is. From what I'm hearing, Nolan takes certain liberties, he compartmentalizes and also leaves out certain things. But also, in his defense, every single adaptation from one media to another typically goes through that process. So I don't think that is something I would hold against it, but also I haven't read the book. I meant to read it. I meant to finish reading it well before the movie came out. It didn't happen. So that's that. The other clarification I think I should make is I'm gonna say that I think this film is probably gonna get a lot of Oscars attention. I don't actually know much about the Oscars. Never once have I watched it. I love watching the recaps after the fact because I find it really interesting to keep up with the news and the stories. But I've never actually sat down and watched the Oscars. Maybe this will be the first year. So I don't know what this film is going to do in terms of legacy, in terms of how this year plays out. I think it'll do really well at the box office. I know Oppenheimer came really close to making $1 billion, Nolan's previous film. But this one, I don't know. I think it's looking at a really strong opening weekend. Last projections I heard were as high as 120 million domestically, which would be awesome. The movie theaters need this. They need this. It's been a good year so far, but with recent little stumbles from Minions and Monsters and Moana, it'd be nice to have another, just, off to the races kind of experience. So anyway, let's get into the movie. I don't know how many films Nolan's made now. I've seen all of them. I just don't know offhand how many there are. But do I think this is his best film? No, I don't think it is. I would probably reserve that spot for Oppenheimer. I think Oppenheimer is perfect from frame one, basically. But we're not here to talk about Oppenheimer necessarily. But when I also say, is this Nolan's best film, I want to make something clear. His best film is very different from my favorite film. Oppenheimer is by no means my favorite from Nolan. I don't know if I could pick a favorite. I could probably narrow it down to 3. In no particular order, I would go Dark Knight, Interstellar, and Inception. But then you think about it and you have Memento, you have Prestige. I mean, in my opinion, and this is counting Tenet, which I know is not his most popular, counting Insomnia, which was earlier in his career, I don't think Nolan's ever made a bad film. And I'm happy to say The Odyssey is not his first one. In my opinion, his record remains pretty flawless. So, this is the story of Odysseus after the Trojan War, his journey back home. Like I said, I hadn't finished the book, so I was only familiar with aspects of it, but for the most part, this was a clean experience for me. They win the war, they're headed back home, they get an unfortunate storm that leads them off their normal trajectory, where they encounter the Cyclops, who never, as far as I know, in 3 viewings, gets named, but from what I understand, his name is Polyphemus. I do remember learning about that in school, at least going through that story. So, like I said, parts of the mythology I actually am pretty aware of, but a lot of this was actually first a new experience for me. So, the Cyclops scene is incredible. I just find Nolan's style to be so interesting and so distinct, and a lot of people aren't, or I shouldn't say a lot, there are some people who aren't crazy about his non-linear storytelling. I, for one, really enjoy it. It doesn't always work for me and from other directors, from other movies, but with Nolan it tends to. So, basically the movie ends up being like a sizzle reel of Odysseus' journey home, a B plot of Telemachus, played by Tom Holland, going through his arc, and also Odysseus, at a certain point further along in the story, reciting the information as it plays out. So it's very interesting how it all sort of intersects, in my opinion. But you go from the Cyclops Island to Circe's Island. I don't really count these as spoilers, considering this book is around 3,000 years old. But I'll kind of leave it at that. It was really interesting to see Nolan kind of do some horror elements for the first time. A buddy of mine said that Oppenheimer has some horror in it, which I agree with, but it's on a much more like psychological level, right? Versus this is more upfront, more like very much from the eyes and the ears kind of experience. With the Cyclops, specifically with Circe, there's some really, really very memorable things that happen there. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything I would say negatively. I don't think it's perfect, but I struggle to come up with anything that like detracts from me in any notable way. I love the score. My goodness, there are moments in this story that just, I'm a very animated person at times, and each time there's a certain like dun 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 dun, and each time it happened, it's actually at the pluck of a bowstring, and in the theater I just went poof, like it is. I get so excited, and I felt that moment just really hit, specifically because of the score. The Battle of Troy is also like used as a reference point for Odysseus's journey and his perspective on how that all took place and what it means for society and the future going forward. I found that to be a really interesting question, and very, very akin to Oppenheimer, actually, in the sense that like there's this person who is largely responsible for what comes next through their decision making, and that was a perspective that I did pick up on, but one that my friend also actually kind of gave more gravitas to than I could. So I want to give him credit for that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling at this point, and this isn't much of a review or a critique because I don't have much to critique, and also this is new for me. But yeah. So yeah, anyway, the movie's well acted. I thought all the performances were good across the board. Tons and tons of talent in the movie. Some people have pointed that out as somewhat a negative, but personally, I'm of the opinion that if these people want to be in the movie and they're getting paid to be in the movie, then I'm all there for it. I don't find it particularly distracting to have various notable actors just in small roles out of the blue. Like, doesn't bother me. I guess I can see how that would bother some, but I just thought like it's a very, very talent-filled film from a talented filmmaker. Just to kind of brush on some of the things that also stood out to me, besides the cast and the performances, the cinematography is incredible. I mean, almost everything, and probably everything, honestly, was shot on location, and the person behind the camera took full advantage of that, as they normally do in Nolan films. It all just looks so scenic, so gorgeous, so like immersive, compared to you know, a lot of movies in the way they're being made today on a volume stage or on a green screen. That's not to say that that's not in here somewhere. I guess I didn't pick up on it being there, but I also wouldn't be surprised if certain things were done in a manner like that. Um, so yeah, I thought the film was great. Um, as corny as it is to say, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Like I said, it's probably not perfect, but I rate films based on my enjoyment of them. I've seen the film 3 times, and that's in 2 days. To come out of it each time with not only new takeaways, new appreciations, but the same score. To feel like this film has maintained its momentum, even though I know what's coming, is very telling for me. I'm someone who likes to rewatch things. I know some people that go to the theater and that's that. I have my experiences like that, but when it's things I'm excited about, passionate about, and very interested in, like the subject matter here, I have no problem rewatching them. And I'm happy to say after numerous rewatches, I think the film holds up just as much. So 10 out of 10, like it or not, that's where I'm at. So hopefully I can get some people to watch this, get some people to subscribe, and we can push forward. I'm gonna try and do reviews for anything that I want to talk about, really. Starting with the Odyssey, and eventually whatever else is coming out, you know, in the future. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I'm not too awkward in this, but we'll see. Self-improvement, that's what we're after. So thank you. Bye.